everyone, I'm Karrie Evenson and welcome to Karrie on Canvas. It has been a long week and I tell you what, I'm ready to relax and let my mind's imagination run wild. And I think starting a painting will do just the trick. I wanted to work on a piece tonight that is abstract and fun, and one of the ways that I've learned over the years to create abstract subjects is to not make such a precise drawing or sketch of it. So we are going to paint a cat that will be loose, colorful, and playful, just as a cat should be. Here's what you're going to need. Medium-sized canvas, medium to large paintbrushes, assorted acrylic paint, paper towels or rags, and don't forget your water to keep your brushes clean, and remember to have a carefree approach to this painting. So here I have my canvas, and what I went ahead and did is I did a very abstract drawing of a cat. And some of you who are familiar with my work know that I have a huge series of cats and dogs and zebras. And one of the things that I do to create a sketch like this is it's called a continuative line. And so all I've done is I've just basically used a sketch pad, and I would take my pencil and draw a cat using one continuous line to get this abstract effect. And then I just copy it back onto my canvas using charcoal, spray it to set it so that it doesn't smear, and then go ahead and tone it. So first what we're going to go ahead and do is start and work in the background. Now the idea to this piece is to basically get yourself out of the thought of doing such precise or detailed drawings, and to let you know that sometimes especially when you're first learning how to sketch, they're not perfect, and that's okay because your painting doesn't have to be perfect, and you can always change it as you're painting. So first we're going to go ahead and take our blue and violet and mix the colors. And I'm going for a blue-violet color to use as the background. And we can come back in as we move around the canvas and lighten it up. Now to tone your canvas as I did, you just basically take a wash brush, such as this size here, and what you'll do is you'll wet the brush and you'll use just a slight little tiny bit of paint, and you will wash over the canvas. And you can see how light it is. It's basically just extremely watered down paint, and any excess water that you have, you can just wipe off. I'm gonna add some white up in here. And don't worry about if you get a little bit on your cat. You can always paint over or paint out what you've messed up on or have done something you don't really like on your piece. And I'm just basically going over where you see that I've already painted or washed over the purple. And this is kind of what I like to call our base coat. It's the first initial coat that we put down on our canvas. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker blue down on the bottom, a little darker blue-violet, to kind of ground the painting. And of course, if you want, you don't have to, but sometimes it's good to scratch in. I had stars earlier, so I can kind of see where they're going to be, and you can easily do this. And I love doing this part because it creates texture. Okay, so we'll leave this brush here and we'll come back to that, and we'll get a new brush for our yellow gold color. And the first thing we're going to do is I have so many different yellows here to choose from. This will allow me to do different kinds of shading or different tones on the cat if I'd like to. So we're starting with a yellow orange azo and cadmium yellow. And we're just working our way around the cat, laying the foundation. going to take a darker gold to kind of use in between the cat, in between his two front legs. So one thing that you could do at home that might be really helpful is get a large pencil or even a marker and get a huge drawing or sketch pad, something that's bigger than an 8.5 by 11. And you can do thumbnail sketches, or you could do one big sketch. Thumbnails is where you would divide it into 4. And try to practice drawing with one continuous line, more like contour drawing. And see what happens. Oh, we got some green in there. You could do a cat, you can do a dog, you can even do a flower. It can be any subject matter you want, but the purpose of it is to not take your pencil or marker off the paper. We have a lot of green that got mixed up in my paint, so that is easily fixed by just wiping it out. And coming back to it. So we will take this color here. And another reason that I use the black charcoal line drawing on the canvas itself is so that you can still see the charcoal, the line through the painting. Because what I will do is as the painting dries, I will go back over it with black lining. Paint, marker, whatever I decide. Painting the paws in. You can see that I'm just using very loose and free strokes. I'm not making it very precise or extremely detailed. If your paint gets too thick, don't be afraid to add some water to your brush also. You'll see me do that a lot. I always dip into my water and then apply the paint. It makes it more fluid. Okay, now I'm going to draw in his face, or paint in his face, not draw. Just like that. Add some to his ears. And there we go. So we have the first part done of our cat. And this little area down here is a little bird. And we might make him maybe a blue. Remember too, nothing is permanent in painting, so if it's something, if you decide, you don't like the particular colors you use, if your paint is still wet, you have a good chance of being able to just wipe it right off, easily by spraying it, getting a towel wet, and wiping it off, paper towels, anything. Or you can always use gesso and gesso over it and start a new piece. I do that a lot. All right, so while the cat is kind of drying, we are gonna go ahead and start working again on the background. And by doing that, we've already have, our paint is still really wet here, so the blending will be really good. And we're just gonna come in with some white. And watch how my strokes are. They're very loose. I'm not doing this. I'm moving my brush around. Keeping the strokes loose helps us to loosen up. And for those of you that do realistic paintings or more detailed work, and you just simply want to learn how to loosen up a little bit more, not necessarily paint like this, this is a good exercise to work on. Sometimes I just have people that want to learn how to paint. They already have a good background in painting, but they just want to approach it in a more loose and free manner. And this is the way I would teach them. Bigger brushes, bigger strokes, more paint. Now I'm going to take a little bit of some magenta and just kind of throw it in on the top. Not everything has to be one particular color. It's really important to move color around your painting and to not work on one particular area at a time, because then you get stuck and you find yourself trying to control it way too much, and we don't want to control it. That's the whole purpose of trying to paint loose and free. Now, I'll come back in and carve my star, just for some added texture. And come back in with the dark blue and a little bit of violet. Just kind of add it in here. Very simple. Simple, simple. Okay, rinsing the brush. I'm gonna leave the background now. I might come back to it. I may add some more, I may not. I'm happy with the colors right now. They're very simple. We have blue violet, red violet, and a yellow. Or different kinds of yellow, golds. So, while this is still kind of drying, it may look a little muddy because it's not completely dry, but we're gonna go ahead and start in on the patches of the cat. So, I am going to take a magenta and a little bit of violet and mix it together and simply just paint it on. We're not worried about too much how perfect it is. We're just simply putting it on just like that. You can do this with, I have a whole series, and I've used little pigs or zebras, horses. And what started off, this actually started off as a children's series that I was doing, and it kind of took off from there. But part of the inspiration was from my kids and how they, when they're drawing on their sketch pads that they have, or even just coloring on a regular piece of paper, they seem to never take their pencil or crayon off the paper until their picture's finally finished. And I love the idea of that because everything looks so abstract and nothing is really realistic. And there's just something that's really neat with a childlike approach to painting or drawing. I was thinking the other day, actually, how great it was when I was a kid to just be so free and let go, and you never really thought about what other people would think about your drawings or your art, and how much fun that was to be able to just kind of let go and be yourself. And so that's one of the reasons I chose to do this piece tonight, to kind of show you that everyone has that childlike capabilities inside of them, the drawing, the painting. You just have to not be so afraid to use it and to find it. Okay. So another thing I like to do with the cat is I like to add the little texture into the spots. My paintbrush is broke. There we go. That happens a lot when you use them. Oh, see? We're gonna have to switch here. You don't have to use the end of your paintbrush either. You can use pencil, just anything that's got a little bit of a point to the bottom. Okay. So we're gonna let that dry a little bit longer and we'll work on the bird. If I can keep my paintbrushes together. Okay, come with some blue. A little bit of teal. I told my daughter that I was going to paint a cat, maybe with his little paw on top of the bird's head like he was playing. And my daughter thought that that would be pretty morbid because it might actually look like the cat was trying to eat the bird or attack the bird. So we went with the paw down on the ground and they're just looking at each other. So it's, maybe he's contemplating it, I don't know. I think this was a better choice, especially if kids are watching the show. So I'm adding some white to the bird to make him stand out a little bit. Just like that. And I'll come back here in a bit and add some black. In the meantime, while we're letting this dry a little bit, we will add in some stars to the top. So what I'd like to do is possibly try some teal. It's wet, but we can still get the idea. And you'll see a difference when, of course, you let your paint dry a little bit longer than I have. Scratching it in. So I think the darker color and with the stars out in the background make it look more like the cat's out at night. And you can, of course, use different colors. The best thing to do to choose colors for those that are beginning is to get your color wheel and go either with 2 colors or 3. 2 would be your complementary colors, and 3 would be split complementary. And each color wheel has that listed, but it's the safest way when you're first starting, so you don't have to use the colors I'm using. You can pick something that you find more appealing or enjoy a certain color palette. Okay. And maybe I'll just add a little bit of swirls. Make the piece really fun. Okay, so come back with the yellow. We are going to add just a little bit of shading, not much, which basically is just a darker gold. And we're gonna go under the face. Okay, and then we're gonna take some white with our yellow, make a nice light yellow, and go back over the head, just like that. And you can, of course, add more shadowing in if you'd like, more detail, more pattern. I mean, you could do zigzags, you can do just about anything you'd like on your cat. There's no limitations. I don't want you painting in your kitchen or your garage or a different room and then you're working on it and you start telling yourself, oh, I don't like this, this doesn't look right. Just keep going with it. Okay, this brush is done for. It keeps breaking on me. This is what happens when you let your brush sit in water, just like that. All right, I'm gonna take the yellow again, go back over the ear, and let's see, I have this orange that I think I might use down here. Oh, there's the green again. I'm glad that I mess up sometimes when I'm on the show with you guys so that you can see how I react, because really it's not a big deal if this happens. You just simply wipe it out with some water and then just reapply. There we go. And if any of you have children, this is a great piece to do with the kids or for the kids, hanging in the bedroom. It's so simple and fun. You can define yours a little bit more than I am right now with having so much wet paint. Okay, another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some teal. You can do a different color. You can go with blue. You can go with a bright lime yellow green, which would be really pretty with the red violet. That would be great. And I'm just going to add, I'm adding, basically all I'm doing is I'm adding extra color to the circles, just so it doesn't look so flat. I'm not making it precise. I'm using my brush very lightly. Just like that. Okay. Now, the fun part is I'm going to start with the black. And remember, my paint's wet, so the lines won't be as defined. This is something too. Spray your paints. If you have acrylic paints, use a water bottle and spray your paints to keep them moist. Really important. If you ever wonder why you're painting and your paint starts to get really thick and hard to move around, it's because it's not moist enough. So we're going to take this black, and we're going to make some bold lines. Another thing you could really do, which would be great, is to take your marker, like a big thick black marker after it dries, and you can go over it instead of paint. Of course, it has to be dry, like I said. If it was wet like this, we would have a problem. And so I have these really abstract paws that I'm just kind of going over like that. This comes to the quiet part when I start to concentrate towards the end of the show. Okay. Now, another thing you can do too, if you want to break the lines up a bit, is you can just kind of scratch them, or you don't even have to completely fill the line in. Notice how my lines aren't perfectly straight. You can even do, some people like to paint butterflies or even shapes, abstract shapes alone you can do this exercise with. Birds, landscapes. Now, I'm going to add his nose and his mouth. Whoops, big glob there. I don't want that. right now I'm just outlining the spots. You can always come back into and change it up. Add his eyes. Finish out the tail here. Add this black line on his tail. Working a little fast here so you can kind of get the idea. There. And of course we'll add some claws. Another thing you can do too on these areas is you can add a highlight color, like a bright fire red or a bright blue. Any of those would work. Finish this right here. All right, almost finished here. I have just to go outline the bird really quick so you can kind of see. And then put the whiskers and we will be done. Whiskers. And there we go. I think that that about does it. I hope all of you enjoyed this painting. Sometimes it is so easy for us, to think that we need every bit of detail on a piece in order for it to be considered good or worth hanging on our wall. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not true. Some of the most amazing art in the world says more with less by using very little detail. In fact, art itself is simply an extension of the person creating it. Perhaps you are not a detailed person, or maybe you only have something to say by simply the colors and the way the brushstrokes are. Whatever it may be, remember that you are the artist in your own story, so go on and write it out and just use some paint instead. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you, so feel free to email me at soverycarrie@cox.net, or you can go to my website at karrieevensonart.com. Please join me again on Monday and Saturday evenings at 7:30 right here on Jones Television Channel 22, or visit us at jonestv.org. Until then, I'm Karrie Evenson, and you've been watching Karrie on Canvas.